head baseball coach, longtime assistant coach in building the program up to the decade of dominance and beyond, and also the dad of the current Cowboys head coach, Josh Holliday, Tom Holliday, who's with us now. And I'll make this easy. What went through your mind as you saw the first pitch and you and Dave Hunziker called the first game ever in O'Brate Stadium yesterday?
Well, tell you what, Robert, I was kind of happy to get it going. It's like I think the awkwardness of the COVID experience from last season, and what it did by shutting it down right when it was ready to open. I kind of felt relief for Josh, to finally get that monkey out there and let it play. But it was like it was just really fun to see even though it was 25%, to see all the people scurrying around and just so many new things. People that didn't realize how big it was, and like walking around just looking at things like, holy cow. You really couldn't do that at Alley P. You just came in and walked, sat down, and watched the game. But it was kind of a fun atmosphere, kind of a special feeling. The emotions probably are gone now because I've come to grips with it.
I want to be fair, and I want you to comment on this because you're very familiar with both ballparks. You've coached in both of them, and I'm talking about the Brick in Oklahoma City. When it was built, I mean, everybody thought, hey, this is a major league caliber minor league park, and it's tremendous. And then you coached last summer. You coached last summer with the Collegians in the Collegians Texas League team representing the Drillers at One Oak. And I remember the first time I went to a Bedlam game there, I thought, God, this is great. Yep. But Tom, I don't think I'm being biased. I walked around last night, and I know it's not as big as the Brick, but I'm just telling you, I think O'Brate's the nicest baseball stadium in the state of Oklahoma, and I don't think I'm exaggerating.
No, you're on it, and where maybe Bricktown, the atmosphere around Bricktown's nice.
It is.
The ballpark, when you walk in it, you feel like you're in a special venue. The thing that sets this stadium apart is it has that. It doesn't have downtown. It doesn't have that city life around it. But what neither of the pro parks in Oklahoma have is what Josh has underneath. I mean, just the general fan really didn't get a chance to explore the indoor hitting area, which is bigger than One Oak and Bricktown put together. To go in there and just see how nice the indoor hitting area and pitching area is incredible. And then just walk across the way, and there's almost a full field of AstroTurf where they can practice infield play while they're hitting, or pitching drills while they're hitting. And then just keep walking, like 10 feet away, you walk into an indoor weight room that hasn't been fully developed yet, but it's going to be fantastic. And I mean, the rest of it, the scoreboards, there's scoreboards that can compare to it, but certainly when you didn't have one at Alley P for 40 years, then you look up and see this thing. I mean, it jumps at you, and it was, really nice last night to look at it. And, the thought of like being able to have a cookout in the outfield because they put those cookout grilling areas in it. Those are unique ideas. They didn't leave their imagination, in the back room. They were creative with this stadium, and I just think it's a crying shame that you can only put 25% of the. I think they could have sold 40,000 tickets for last night's game.
Yeah, and up in the press box, I tried to envision what it might look like when it's hosting a regional and there's standing room only, and it's I think it will hold a sizable number of people, even people in standing room. The concourse is so big, which is a good. I think that's a great thing. For parents who bring little kids out there, the kids can run around a little bit on the concourse, and yeah, there'll be a few adults that'll go, "Oh, I'll get these kids out of here." But there's room, there's space that people can use, and then here's the other thing. I wondered how much you had talked to Josh and his interview with us afterwards on the Zoom conference. He admitted this would not be as special if you didn't win the game, and as well, there's a precedent set for soft opening to ballparks at Oklahoma State, because you guys soft opened Alley P in '81 before you had the big day in '82 when Mickey and all of Alley's teammates could be there and had the big ceremony. That'll probably happen next year, a bigger ceremony, but there's a lot of pressure on a ball club to win a game like that. And Oklahoma State, I remember it kind of haunted Coach Ward not beating Missouri in that first game ever at Alley P. And I thought Josh's team handled the pressure of opening the park really well last night.
Well, they did. And, he stuck his neck out and ran up and played Wichita State to open the season. And, the commotion of having a series canceled in Houston and then finding somebody to play to get your team, jump started to go play Wichita State, that's kind of that's a unique opener, and only people around here understand that when I say it, because it just shows up as two games on the record or on your schedule, but that's not a normal 2-game series to play. And I only wish they had played 3, because that's what Coach Stevenson and I talked about the last time he and I went head-to-head, was that this needs to be a 3-game set, no more Tuesday games. And it almost came to reality. And that probably got his team ready for last night more than anything else. It probably took some of the butterflies away. And you know what, Robert? They have a really, really good team this year. I mean, this isn't.
I know.
I'm not gonna throw this monkey out there and turn it into a gorilla after a 3-0 start, because there's a lot of teams in this country this year that have a really, really good team. The COVID backup has created a lot of 23-year-old college players that are going to make a lot of teams look good. Now, some schools are going to wish they'd gotten rid of some of their 23-year-olds, so they could play their young kids. But in Josh's case, he's got a really good blend of older kids and younger kids. And, right now he is so focused on his team. And, you have a grand opening and something that's a special stadium. That's a special night. That's a special man that opened up his pocketbook for $35 million. I mean, I wish I had that kind of money so I could build a little league stadium for my grandkids, but yeah. I don't have that kind of money. But, what a wonderful thing to do. When I thought about it, I was like, let's get this thing over with so he can get back to, just focusing on winning baseball games. Because, as well as I do, the night was special. It had a lot of sideshows. He has to, go through the sideshow routine. But, once that game started last night, trust me, it was about winning a baseball game. And, it'll settle into that. And that team will, I hope, appreciate that stadium, because, people are going to come in there, and when they play them, they're going to go, wow, this place is unreal. And that's a good thing, because now you have an edge up on them already. And yet they're going to be happy to come and play because of the experience, but they got to get that, make that their home. And they got to, they got to have that 800 winning percentage at home. And that's, that's what I'm looking forward to.
When you and I get to talking, we could talk forever, because there's still questions I want to ask you about last summer. I celebrated my birthday up at One Oak. We rented a suite and had a blast.
Yeah, I saw you
watching that team you were, and you had some really. how hard is it going to be for you to keep up with all your guys from that team? Because I know you're going to want to see, and you had them from coast to coast, from USC to South Florida, guys on your ball club. So I'm sure you'll keep up with those kids.
Well, Robert, I'm not a real tech savvy guy, but I do get a lot of text messages, and I do enjoy keeping track of kids. And it's like next summer in the Cape, I've got a 53-man roster, and I'm only allowed to have 30. But it's like any of those kids that played for me last summer. I told them, hey, I'll take you to the Cape if you don't sign. So I hope I have to pull my foot out of my mouth. But right now my roster is crazy big, and those kids that played last summer were special. I didn't have one case of COVID. At no time did I have to shut them down, and that's making a pretty big sacrifice for these college athletes to stay out of the fun. Like last night, the temptation for those kids to go out with their families or whoever and celebrate. And then they have to say, "Nah, we can't do that. We just can't do that. We can't risk making the team sick." So, the athletes today that are playing under this bubble, it's a special challenge for them. And the kids I had last summer, I thanked them, and I will take them to the Cape. They will get priority on my roster if they don't sign pro contracts. But it was a challenge. It was fun, and thank God for text messages, because I'd be on the phone all day long.
Yeah, it was fun to watch that and keep up with that last summer when we really didn't have, we didn't have a obviously a normal baseball year. All right, getting back to the here and now, I wasn't rooting for Brett Stanley to have to come in, but Rob came out there and brought him in for the last hitter. I'd been listening to the radio and listening to Rex and Chief when they described him closing the game out and striking out the side the other night in the 3-1 win in the first game Sunday at Wichita. And so last night I asked both the kids that were on with us, Alex Garcia and Cade Cabanis, how powerful is it to when Stanley comes out to close out a game, and you guys see, the way he pitches. And Cabanis stopped me and said, "Look, we love Brett. He's a heck of a pitcher, and yeah, he's powerful, but the fans don't realize how many arms we have, how many guys we can bring out that will get outs out of the bullpen." And that was a pretty big statement to me, because Tom, pitching as well as anybody, and I've got him inked into that closing role with what I've seen so far, because he's intimidating. He's what you expect a closer to look like, but Cabanis is telling me there's a whole bunch of closers out there.
Really, I'm surprised that Cade would make that observation. Sometimes when you're a hitter, of course, now they've been facing each other for
Sure.
I don't know, 6 months, but that's a really good observation. I honestly have seen a lot of this team, because when you run around scouting like I do as a hobby, it's like I've seen 3 guys that could close for most teams, and they're all in the same uniform. And what Brett Stanley has done by adding a curveball to his stuff has changed him. He's a different pitcher, and I've seen him for 3 years pitch. And you're right, he looks the part. Now, by adding a curveball, for some silly reason, his confidence level jumps, and he now has a pitch that changes planes, and all of a sudden he's throwing 94, which, 94 is kind of like a new average, but it's not in college. If you can go 94, but you can get anybody out you want, and he's got a big enough mix that you can't sit on anything that he has. So he could be the closer. If Rob feels like his starting pitching is what he wants, then he could be a closer. He could be a bridge guy to a closer, because they got a guy named Cable that throws 98 with a major league split and a pretty good slider. He's a closer. Robert, I'll go this way, okay? After all the years that I've observed this, I think the worst thing about calling somebody a closer is that people think that every time you're winning late, you got to go to the same guy. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, hey, let's face it. You play 56, you're going to try to win 56. You can't pitch one guy 56 times.
No.
So to have more than one closer, and when I went to Texas, I had Jay Brent Cox and I had Houston Street. And believe me, I alternated them, and both of them were good all year long. Okay. And, it's kind of like Augie'd be like, which one are you going to use? Well, I told him I'm going to go with the fresh guy tonight. And so it worked. And, we started a little bit of a, kind of a trend. And it's hard to have two closers on the same staff. And I think, honestly, that Rob has maybe three. He's got a freshman named Martin that people haven't seen yet from Asher, and he's
Right.
94, 95 with a major league cutter. And, again, first time in the fall when he walks out there, he got done. I said, "Oops, there's a Cape Cod guy." So I went down and I whispered to Robin. I said, "Hey," he goes, "Man, what a cutter." So, I mean, it's like they do have multiple options to close, but they got multiple options for starters. And, again, like I said earlier, I don't want to turn this thing into a gorilla, but they have pitching like they've never had. I mean, and the COVID backup, to have Stanley back is, you're kind of lucky, because I don't know, if you had more than a 5-round draft, you may not have him back.
Yeah.
But he is back. Now, to garner an attitude of some of these guys that had to come back that may have had their eye on signing, that's the beauty of coaching. And I think Josh has prepared them beautifully, and it's going to be tough to manage a 45-man roster. But, what do they say? That's why you make the big bucks. So, they're going to be fun to watch. I mean, I can tell you this. I would find a way to get in that ballpark. I mean, that 25% occupancy thing drives me crazy, because I guess there's just not really any tickets on the street. There might be 300, I think. Somebody said to me last night, for sale on a game-to-game basis. But I would get there. I mean, I would certainly get there. They're good.
Yeah, I've got an opportunity because I was 20 minutes before my time to pick seats. They had sold out because I had season tickets from last year that carried over, and I had my time. And when I called in, I said, we sold out 20 minutes ago, but I can call in before a series starts, and I have like a 3-hour window before the public gets the chance, and I can get SRO or general admission, which I'll do because I know Zach and my grandson will want to come over. Hey, last thing, I remember standing around the batting cage when Josh was in his first season as head coach, and I said, "What do you?" I just we were just chatting. This wasn't for a story. It wasn't. I didn't have a recorder or camera going. I said, "What are you going to need here to get this program where you remember it being with your dad and with Coach Ward and where it needs to be?" He said, "Robert, we need to find some way to combat the SEC network, because in recruiting, parents know they can see all the games. That's you got to find a way to combat that, which they really kind of have with this streaming. And young people stream now. My kids stream and don't have cable. I'm a old guy, and so I rely on cable. But I do have Big 12 now." And then he said, "The other thing I need a facility. This was great for my dad, but back in the day, but we need a facility because you go look at the facilities in the SEC." And that's another thought I had last night when the first pitch was being thrown. Josh has got his recipe. He's got, like you said, a very good team, and I don't want to make it into a gorilla either. But from a recruiting standpoint, which that was your deal. You loaded those teams. You were the guy that went out and loaded the talent. And now Josh and his staff have got a really, really good base to recruit really, really good players, and they've got some. I mean, I was going to mention Dom Johnson, the young outfielder from Santa Fe. That I coached him in Little League football. Talked to his dad last night, and he said, why would my kid go anywhere else but to play in this ballpark and be coached by the coaches he's being coached by? He goes, there's no choice there. with anywhere else. And that's kind of what Josh has got working now.
Yeah, I kind of, we interviewed the coach at Little Rock, and I remember when Chris played at Mississippi State, he's a pretty good player.
Yeah.
And then, how he ends up being a coach at Little Rock is, it's interesting. Hey, where we end up coaching sometimes is interesting. Sometimes people think you're nuts when you do certain things, but, the thing Chris, he mentioned was like he walked in the ballpark and was just tickled to death to bring his team over and, get out of the cold weather and all that. And then he goes, but I really felt like I need to go get autographs. He says, I want to go get Ventura and Matt Holliday's autograph. But I thought that was funny. And, I agree with Dom's dad. I hope it takes Robin 5 years to finish his degree. I don't know if Robin has that plan in mind, but and honestly, I thought he was closer to his degree than what he actually was. But to watch those guys work together, those kids are so lucky to have that group of coaches. And I say lucky, but I mean it the way it came together is unique. And that part, along with the new stadium, Josh is 100% right. The SEC is a monster. That television network, and I look up now, the ACC's done it. They've done it. The ACC had games on TV all weekend, and you have to understand something. And anybody that's a real college sports fan knows this. You're only as good as the players you have. Now, you can be really good if you can coach them, and you can be great if you're a great coach. So, you just keep adding one, and this ballpark's going to get Josh in the living rooms, in the houses that are kids saying, "I'm going to the SEC." I'm going to turn down $1 million and go to the SEC. And all of a sudden, you look up and you get a couple of them because of that. Dom Johnson would have been a pretty good draft choice.
Yeah.
If it hadn't been a 5-round draft. And the kid at Asher, Trevor Martin, same thing. Those are premium guys. If it's a 10-round draft, you may not have them. And our greatest year ever was the year that they went on strike when we got all those kids. We got, we had 7 guys that were drafted in the first 10 rounds that just didn't sign, the year we got Pete. So that recruiting class went to Omaha 4 years in a row. Now, can you do that now? I don't know that. And I can tell you, the Big 12 needs to get caught up. They need to wake up. There's enough money in the Big 12 conference to have their own television station, just like ACC and SEC. And, I talked to Timmy Allen, who I've known for 40 years, and I thought it was going to happen. It didn't happen. And, it's like I told him, I said, hey, I'll tell you what, I'll volunteer my time. I'll just cover baseball for you in the baseball season, and you can get some other guys around the league. And I thought maybe it had legs, but it didn't. I don't know how much money it costs to have to have your own network. But Josh is right. You've got to compete with the Joneses, and thank goodness that they have a ESPN Plus contract, because we're going to try to do, I guess, 22 games, and then we're going to do a thing called Behind the Mic for the other 10 or 11 games that aren't going to be on television. And I haven't done it yet. So until we do it, I don't know what it actually is. So you're right. Streaming is important. It's going to be streamed out there, but the conference on the whole is really, really good this year. But you're only going to be able to see, like if you want to buy the ESPN Plus package, teams on a selected basis. But we're almost caught up, Robert, but not quite. So that'll be the last obstacle.
I will say this, Tom, and that is, when you buy that Disney package now, ESPN Plus comes with it, and I'm just saying this: most of the kids are not like us. In fact, I know where the dividing line is because, for instance, Zach reads a newspaper every day. Katie reads everything, my daughter, on the internet, never buys a newspaper, never touches a newspaper. It's all online. And she and her husband They watch. They have a smart TV or smart TVs, and they everything they do is streaming. And so that's the way it is. The young kids, maybe not the parents, but the kids you want to recruit are watching everything on their phones, their tablets, their computers, and that's where you get Big 12 now. So as long as you can get them to fork over the $6 a month, they can watch all the Oklahoma State baseball. So
Yeah. Was that
again,
what we did last night? Were we on that? Or I mean, I think
no,
we were on
you
ESPN.
guys,
I don't
yeah,
know.
my wife watched on our TV at home. You guys were on Big 12 now, so it was streamed coast to
Okay.
coast. So you go to ESPN.com. I have a subscription. I click ESPN Plus. I click the OSU game, and I can watch that on my phone, computer, my smart TV. So
How did it show
it's
up? Did she say how it
oh
showed up on
oh,
TV?
she said it was great. I guess they showed a couple of shots in the booth. I don't know how. I think Dave probably has that camera set up, and and she said I didn't, or maybe they used the center field camera and showed you guys in the booth. And she said I noticed that they weren't socially distanced and there wasn't a plexiglass between them. She goes, Dave must really trust Tom Holliday because he wouldn't let me. I hardly got to go in the football booth this year at all. I mean, we hardly
Hey,
saw each
Brad,
other.
I've been a good boy, Robert. I've been a good boy, but I'm at
So have
the age
I.
that you've been reading about on television. So Kathy and I have spent a lot more time in this house than what we really like. But
Oh.
the mask
you
was
had
on the way in, and then only because there was 3 people in that booth that I take it off. So
Have you had your vaccinations?
no vaccination, but I took the ivermectin, so I'm
Okay.
like my foot's halfway in, and I'm going to wait
Yeah.
and see how this vaccine works before I jump in there. I'm not
Yeah,
I'm not 100% sold on it yet.
I'm trying to jump in. My wife's done both of them, and because her dental office. So I'm waiting to jump in. But hey, I appreciate the time. I know you had a blast last night. You'll have a blast all season, and yeah, that was something cool to watch last night. It really was.
That's good. That's good. And you know what? It's going to get warmer. Spring is around the corner, and good baseball is going to be in the air. And now we just got to try to get a regional tournament here. So now I am going to make that monkey into a gorilla. Go out and win 45, and you're host the regional. Boy, that'd be great first year to have a regional here. So
Well,
that'll be up
be
to those 45 guys in uniform because they're going to get coached well. They just got to go out and muscle up and beat some good teams.
well. Hey, tell Kathy I said hey. We'll see you at the ballpark.
All right, buddy. See you soon.
All right, Tom Holliday again.